You did everything people told you to do. You worked hard. You showed up every day. You tried to be responsible with money. Maybe you even skipped vacations, avoided wasting money, and started saving little by little because you believed eventually things would get easier. But somehow, they didn't. You check your bank account after paying bills and the number barely moves. You get a raise, but inflation eats most of it. You save money, then an emergency happens and suddenly you're back where you started. And after a while, you begin asking yourself a dangerous question. How am I working this hard and still feeling financially stuck? Here's the thing. Most people think wealth is created by working harder. But there comes a point where effort alone stops being enough. Because the financial game changes completely once you understand how money actually works. And unfortunately, schools never teach this properly. They teach people how to work for money, but almost never how to make money work for them. That's why so many smart, hard-working people stay trapped financially for decades. Not because they're lazy, not because they're stupid, but because nobody ever explained the math, psychology, and behavior behind real wealth building. The biggest financial lie people accidentally believe is this. High income automatically creates wealth. It doesn't. You can make $250,000 a year and still feel financially trapped. And meanwhile, someone making far less quietly builds real financial freedom in the background. Because wealth is not about how much money comes in. It's about how much stays with you and how long that money keeps working after you earn it. Here's what most people don't realize. A lot of people who look rich are actually just highly financed. The luxury car, monthly payment. The expensive apartment, debt. The designer lifestyle online, often funded by future income that hasn't even been earned yet. And over time, those monthly obligations become financial handcuffs. You stop taking risks. You stay in jobs you hate. You feel pressure to maintain appearances. Look, real wealth is usually invisible. It's investments, ownership, cash flow, assets quietly compounding in the background while nobody notices. And that's the difference between looking wealthy and actually becoming free. Most financial advice sounds reasonable at first. Stop buying coffee. Spend less money. Make a budget. Cook at home. And look, none of that is technically bad advice. But here's the problem. A lot of financial content focuses on tiny expenses while completely ignoring massive financial leaks destroying people's futures. If someone has $40,000 in credit card debt with a 24% interest rate, their problem is not iced coffee twice a week. That debt is growing faster than their savings. This is where financial advice becomes incomplete. Because scale matters. Saving a few dollars helps, but increasing income, reducing high-interest debt, and investing consistently changes your entire trajectory. Now, you might be thinking, so what actually matters financially? Three things: income, time, and rate of return. That's the real equation. And surprisingly, time is usually the most powerful variable. Because compounding growth looks slow in the beginning, almost boring. But over long periods, small, consistent actions create massive results people never expected. That's the part most people underestimate. This is where it gets really interesting. Imagine two people starting their financial journey. Person A reaches $100,000 invested by age 30. Person B waits until 40 to start taking investing seriously because life kept getting in the way. Now, on the surface, 10 years doesn't sound that dramatic. But financially, it changes everything. Assuming an average annual market return of around 10% before inflation, that original $100,000 invested at age 30 could grow into roughly $1.7 million by age 60 without adding another dollar. That's the insane power of compounding. And this is exactly why people say the first 100K is the hardest. Because in the beginning, your effort builds the money. You work overtime. You save aggressively. You sacrifice comfort. But eventually something changes. The money starts generating returns on its own. And those returns begin generating even more returns. That's when wealth starts accelerating. The scary part is most people quit too early because compounding feels painfully slow at first. But exponential growth always looks small, right before it becomes massive. Money is psychological far more than most people realize. A lot of financial decisions are emotional decisions pretending to be logical ones. People don't always buy things because they need them. They buy things because of how those purchases make them feel. Status, comfort, validation, recognition. And modern marketing understands this perfectly. Nobody sells luxury products by focusing only on function anymore. They sell identity. Here's what most people don't realize. Your brain is naturally wired to prioritize immediate rewards over long-term security. Behavioral economists call this instant gratification bias, which means spending money today often feels emotionally better than investing for a future you can't even clearly picture yet. That's why saving money feels difficult for so many people. The rewards are delayed, but spending gives instant dopamine. And social media makes this problem even worse. Every day, people compare their real financial lives to carefully edited highlights online. Suddenly, everyone feels behind. And that pressure silently pushes people into lifestyle inflation, debt, and emotional spending that keeps them financially trapped for years. Now let's talk about debt, because this is where people become deeply confused financially. Some people say all debt is bad. Others say debt is the key to building wealth. And honestly, both can be true depending on the situation. If you're carrying credit card debt at 22% interest, that debt is working against you every single day. Even while you sleep, the balance keeps growing. In that situation, paying off the debt is one of the best guaranteed returns you can get financially. But low-interest debt is different. For example, someone with a low fixed mortgage rate may actually benefit more by investing extra money instead of aggressively paying off the house early. This is where wealthy people think differently from average consumers. Average people ask, "Is debt good or bad?" Wealthy people ask, "What is the cost of borrowing compared to the expected return on my money?" That's a completely different mindset, because debt used for consumption usually destroys wealth. But debt used carefully for productive assets can sometimes accelerate wealth creation dramatically over time. One of the strangest things about money is how many high-income earners still feel financially trapped. From the outside, their lives look successful. Nice car, luxury apartment, expensive vacations, designer clothes. But behind the scenes, many of them are under massive financial pressure every single month. Because as income rises, lifestyle expectations usually rise with it. A bigger paycheck often leads to bigger obligations. Better car payments, higher rent or mortgage, private schools, expensive social circles, constant upgrades. And eventually their entire income becomes committed before they even receive it. This is why high income alone does not create freedom. In some cases, it actually creates dependency. Look, real wealth is usually invisible. Real wealth is ownership, cash flow, investments quietly compounding in the background. Most fake wealth is simply finance consumption designed to look impressive online. A leased luxury car might attract attention for a moment, but an investment portfolio creates something much more important: options. And financially, options are one of the most valuable forms of freedom a person can have. So what does the actual path from $100,000 to $1 million realistically look like? First, eliminate destructive high-interest debt. Because if your debt is growing faster than your investments, compounding starts working against you instead of for you. Second, focus on increasing your income strategically. There's only so much money you can save by cutting expenses. But income potential can scale dramatically through valuable skills, business opportunities, negotiation, or career growth. Third, avoid lifestyle inflation at all costs. This is where most people silently destroy their future wealth. Every raise becomes a new car, a bigger apartment, more subscriptions, more monthly obligations. Instead, capture the gap between your old lifestyle and your new income. Invest the difference consistently. Fourth, automate investing whenever possible, because automation removes emotion from the process. And finally, think in decades instead of months. This is the part people struggle with emotionally. Real wealth creation usually feels slow and boring in the beginning. But over time, consistency combined with compounding becomes unbelievably powerful. Look, the path from $100,000 to $1 million is not some secret reserved only for geniuses, entrepreneurs, or people born into wealthy families. In most cases, it comes down to a few simple principles repeated consistently for a very long time. That's the part people hate hearing, because modern culture trains people to chase fast results. Quick money, quick success, quick validation. But real wealth usually grows quietly, almost invisibly. For years, it can feel like nothing is happening at all. And then suddenly, the compounding starts accelerating faster than most people imagine possible. Here's the thing. The biggest financial mistake people make is underestimating the power of time. Not intelligence, not luck, not even income. Time. Because money invested consistently over decades can eventually create more freedom than working endlessly ever will. And that freedom is the real goal. Freedom to choose how you spend your time. Freedom to leave toxic jobs. Freedom to stop living paycheck to paycheck. Freedom to stop feeling trapped financially. Once you understand that, you stop chasing shortcuts and finally start building wealth that actually lasts.